Well, hello everybody. Oh, I am recording. Yes, this is Louise Edington, the Cosmic Owl Astrology again, with the week ahead forecast for March the 2nd to March the 9th, 10th, I guess. Yep. And oh, wow. I'm recording this on the day of the Pisces New Moon on the 27th, February the 27th. We're about to head into March, and I'm going to take you through the following week. But of course, we're entering Venus retrograde, Mercury retrograde, lunar maximum, maximum of lunar maximum, and the eclipses. So today's new moon is the start of the cycle that takes us to a lunar eclipse and then a solar eclipse right at the end of March on the 29th. And of course, I'll be doing videos for those too. But wow, the energy is intense. So let me just share the chart. And because of certain things, I'm actually going to talk about a couple of, a couple of asteroids and things that I would not normally talk about. But before I do, so I'm recording this on the 27th. I think last week I neglected to notice or mention that on the 28th. So let me actually get to that. Moon conjunct. So on February the 28th, very late at night on the East Coast, 11:18 p.m., we actually have an occultation of Mercury, which means that the moon covers the planet Mercury in the evening sky. I mean, by this point, Mercury is not visible in the evening sky because he's slowing down to go retrograde once he's moved into Aries. But this is an occultation conjunct the North Node. These are wild times, people. So not only do we have Ceres, Sun, Nessus, Saturn, Mercury, Moon, and North Node and Neptune all in Pisces right now as I record this, and for a couple of days till the moon moves out, we also have this occultation conjunct the North Node and really conjunct Neptune also. This is really kind of blotting out, and this is really the dissolution of so much and that we thought to be true. And we're seeing that happen. And it's a test of faith in many, many ways and an initiatory journey, which is what the Venus retrograde journey is class that I'm running. So I just neglected to mention that we have this occultation. But I did want to say about the occultation. Oh, I can't find it actually. It's actually over Australia. So that's where the moon will block out the visibility of Mercury. But the energy of the mind and the belief and faith is literally being kind of eclipsed, occulted, and it's going to reveal more hidden stuff, as if we need any more. So then on March the 1st as well, of course, Venus is stationing retrograde. So I'm going to go to March the 2nd, which is the week we are looking at, and you will see that by then Venus is in red, which means she is now retrograde. So we start March the 2nd with Venus at her station point. So because she's one of the personal planets and one of the faster moving planets, she will start to move off 10 degrees, 50 minutes pretty quickly, but not right away. And so she starts Sunday and in Eastern time. I've set it for 1 a.m. And she is still at her station point. And I will tell you that she had the moon conjunct as she's stationed. So let's have a look through the week. So March the 2nd is where we start. So she actually stationed retrograde at 7:36 p.m. Eastern on March the 1st, and then at just less than 3 hours later, 10:25 p.m., the Moon and Venus were conjunct. Having these two conjunct so close together by less than 3 hours while Venus stations retrograde is not the norm, I have to tell you. And this really is tuning us into this yin energy of the divine feminine, of really starting to look at our relationships, what we desire, what we feel, our connections, and so on and so forth. It's going to be a very interesting period, I have to tell you. But then on March the 2nd at 11:21 a.m., Mercury has been occulted by the moon, by the way, will conjunct Neptune. So Mercury will cross the North Node and then conjunct Neptune. This is like download city, but also more gaslighting, more confusion, more kind of chaos, more lying, more think, but also more shedding of old beliefs and what we had faith in, and so on and so forth. This is wild. This is really is. But then on March the 2nd as well, the Sun in Pisces also will come up and square Jupiter. And that is a closing square to Jupiter, the first one since Jupiter stationed direct in Gemini. And this has a lot to do with this massive shifting consciousness. And Mercury is the guide for Gemini, and Jupiter is about belief as well. So it's almost like all that we have faith in or have had faith in and believe to be true is kind of being tested so much at the moment. The only way forward through all this really is to trust what you know inside. Okay, not trusting anything particularly out there. I'm not saying, don't believe all news sources. I'm not one of those people, but maybe triple check and things like that and look at various sources for out that. But for the bigger scheme of things, this really is a time to go within and really start to trust your inner knowing, so to speak. Now, you may be going, oh, there's some things on this chart that I didn't know before. I do want to tell you that this is asteroid Daedalus or Daedalus, and this is asteroid Icarus. And I left them on because I will show you this card keeps coming up, the fall. And that's about Icarus falling, because he flew too close to the sun. But the thing about the fall is it's got all that connotation, right, with the Christian myths, the fall from grace, and what a time we live in. Now, I have a theory for you. You know me and my theories. So the fall of man was the Bible story in which Adam and Eve disobey God and are cast out of the Garden of Eden. Blah, blah, blah. So the fall of man represents humanity's rejection of God's authority and design. It also introduced sin into the world. Now then, I will give you a bit of an alternative, and I have to do a little bit more listening to this. I was listening to a podcast by somebody who claimed to have lived in Atlantis, which sunk into the ocean, right, or is said to have, and she said there was centaurs in Atlantis at the time. So I'm going to go back and listen to all this again. Take it with a pinch of salt, whatever. But my opinion is that the fall is not a bad thing. The fall is remembering that we are fully human in all our faults and interconnectedness, all right? So we are kind of meant to kind of fall down to earth. And the Christian stories have really been created to, show us that we are awful, sinful, bad. I mean, yes, there are, people that do awful things, of course. But I don't think we are inherently sinful or bad. And anyway, the fall to my mind, is about coming down into our full humanness as half man, half horse, or half spirit, half animal, and or half human, half spirit, whatever you want to say, and healing that separation. So, of thinking we have to be perfect. Now, there are other reasons why I think that, because of the nodes in Virgo and Pisces as well. That is kind of this earthly and spiritual part of us, and coming into wholeness. There's so many parts I could go to with that, but I'm getting kind of lost again in the weeds. So I'm going to move on. Just things to think about. Would love your thoughts. I haven't fully fleshed out those ideas, so don't shoot me. But also, these are seeding ideas, and I like to tell you what's coming up for me. So that's March the 2nd. So and you can see that the moon is in Aries now and will go over Chiron, Eris, and move into Taurus. But the moon doesn't move into Taurus yet. So we'll move on to March the 3rd. So you can see on March the 3rd, the moon is finishing up in Aries. The moon will move into the sign of Taurus at 5:36 a.m. But just before that as well, at 4:03 a.m. Eastern, Mercury will move into the sign of Aries and join Venus, and Mercury, of course, is going to go retrograde in the sign of Aries and back into Pisces as well, just like Venus. But the thing about Mercury moving into Aries is thought and communication becomes a lot more direct, other than the fact we are heading back into this retrograde. But initially, you will get some clarity. You will start to be, a lot more direct, a lot less fuzzy-headed, but there's still a lot more of this chaotic change to come, right? Later on March the 3rd, and this is an object I never look at in these weekly ones, but I just wanted to mention it because Hecate is very intimately connected with all that's happening in the cosmos right now and with the Venus retrograde journey. And she is trined by the Sun, and she'll also be in a quincunx, of course, with Jupiter, because Jupiter's moving towards her, and Hecate is about station retrograde. But I thought this was important because she is also stationing to go retrograde as the Sun trines, makes this lovely watery trine to Hecate, the triple moon goddess, the keeper of the keys. She's always the torchbearer at the crossroads. She's a dark goddess, kind of said to roam at night. She ruled dogs, and she helped Demeter find Persephone and be reunited. To my mind, she has the keys to the shamanic realms, and I just love that she is stationing retrograde at 13 degrees. So we are quickly going to look at, in fact, we'll come to that when she stations retrograde. I'll show you that. But first, the Sun shines that big old foggy Pisces light onto the shadows of Scorpio, into the underworld where Hecate is stationing retrograde in the deep oceanic waters of Scorpio. Is it any wonder I start listening to something about Atlantis under that? Really? Because Atlantis is said to be sunk somewhere in the deepest oceans. Well, this is kind of wild to me, but maybe it's just archetypally representative of diving into that deep yin feminine energy, and also into the cosmic super, the oceans from which we are created, really, because we are water, wave, mostly, as humans. Anyway, I'm going way out there again, but that's March the 3rd. On to March the 4th. March the 4th, Pluto and Haumea square off exactly to each other. Now, this is the 7th, I think, of of 13 exact squares. I did write an article on it on my Substack. If you just search astrology aspect of the decade, you'll find it. It's on my Substack. And I looked at all the dates. I gave a lot of information about Haumea, and I will actually post this article in the description. So Pluto and Haumea are going to square off 13 times. They started on May the 7th and they will finish on January the 13th, 2028. Wow. So now we are at March the 4th, and that's 1, 2, 3, 4. This is the 7th. So there was 6 before and there's 6 more afterwards. This is the middle one at 2 degrees Aquarius Scorpio, as these two really start to work together and we start to move out of their squares. As you know, we've had 6 already. This is the pivot point, the fulcrum square, and then we're going to have 6 more squares as we emerge into the new paradigm. Now, Haumea is pure creation. She was able to give birth from every part of her body and regenerate age-wise. She was said to have birthed all the Hawaiian pantheon of gods and goddesses, but also, like, you know, the volcanoes and things like that. She is like earth creation, if you like. And Pluto is transformation, kind of the chrysalis to the butterfly kind of energy, but also brings that, dives in deep to the shadow to dig out and get rid of the excrement that is no longer needed. So these two are working together throughout this whole decade to really transform and rebirth something new, or to birth something new. So Pluto is death, rebirth, destruction and restructuring, metamorphosis, regeneration, transformation, and Pluto is evidently a catalyst for major change. I don't find Pluto scary. My teacher said Pluto takes away what you thought was your power and leaves you with what is truly your power. I have found Pluto transits to be deeply, deeply rewarding. And Pluto's discovery coincided with the growth of psychology, psychoanalysis, and personal growth. But Pluto has an orbit of 248 years. Now, Haumea was not spotted until 2003 and first nicknamed Santa, incidentally, but she was named after the Hawaiian goddess of fertility and birth. She is really unusual, but she is about the same size as Pluto, from the same region of the sky, the Kuiper belt. She's one of the fastest rotating objects in the solar system. It only takes her 4 hours to rotate, right? Whereas we take a full day. All right. She has an orbit of 284 years. So her orbit is only 36 years longer than Pluto. She is shaped like an egg. Some have said football or cigar, but it looks like an egg. You can look at the article. She also has, in representations of her, she has a red spot that looks like the umbilical cord connection to the mother. And she also has rings and moons, I think, as well. So we're finding out more about Haumea all of the time. Now, Alan Clay of Dwarf Planet Astrology says we can think of Haumea as being like the other side of Pluto's transformation, as the new that is reborn from the old. Only Haumea doesn't destroy to create. She births the new from a reinvigoration of heritage. I will, however, say, as a mother who has given birth to 2 children, that birthing is not easy and it can be rather messy. Okay, so I'm not saying that Alan doesn't know that. Maybe I'll ask him to come on my podcast. But anyway, squares are tense aspects that really push and inspire change. And since Pluto and Haumea can be eruptive in nature, both the birthing and dying processes are potent, powerful, and violent in nature, just like those. So these two squares, these 13 squares, 13, number of the goddess, I'm coming back to 13 again in a minute, are really helping us to birth this new paradigm. Now, I did say in the article that the first square brought Finland and Sweden applying to join NATO, and I believe they're both in NATO now. The drought in the West, this was the first square. I should go through and do more history on this article. But anyway, the first square in 2022 uncovered remains in Lake Mead, Nevada, which were likely remains of mob killings. 19 children and 2 teachers were killed in Uvalde, Texas. Leaders of America, Australia, India, and Japan met in Tokyo, focusing on Chinese aggressions in the Indo-Pacific. Russia's invasion of Ukraine continued, and Oklahoma banned abortions. And there was the first ever US government report into Indian boarding school deaths that was released. It wasn't complete, but it was first released under the new first square in 2022. And one of the biggest pieces of news for an astrologer was that astronomers revealed the first image of the supermassive black hole at the center of the Milky Way, known to astrologers as the galactic center or Sagittarius A. And you will know that I use that a lot. So Alan Clay of this square says that we are likely to see power struggles between autocrats and the social renewal process in various parts of the world and they're going to reach crisis points at each of the squares. How right was he? And I agreed with him. So you can read the article if you like, but I love that there are 13 exact squares, and we'll talk about that more. But 13 is the death card in the tarot. So, we really are kind of having some death and rebirth. And of course, the death card in the tarot is the Scorpio card, and Haumea is in Scorpio. So, wow. Okay, it's just amazing. Okay, this square. So it was quite a long article. I'm quite proud of it, actually. But anyway, this is the middle square on March the 4th. Also on March the 4th, the moon goes out of bounds again. Bear with me. Get the time. The moon goes out of bounds at 7:02 p.m. on March the 4th at 22 degrees 37 minutes of Taurus, and will be out of bounds until March the 10th. Okay, so the moon's going out of bounds a little bit more each time and for longer each time as we get to the peak lunar maximum on March the 22nd. Maximum out of bounds for this time will be from March the 7th to just on March the 7th, so in the middle there. All right, so on to March the 5th. Now I've got waylaid by Haumea. So on March the 5th, the moon will finish its journey in Taurus and go out of bounds. That doesn't quite fit with my out of bounds thing. I may have to look at that and redo it for my daily posts, but it's going out of bounds around this time. And oh, that's because No, I know why. And the moon will move into Gemini for a couple of days. But on March the 5th as well, Mercury solidly in Aries now, but now at 2 degrees Aries, which is the point of the Venus star point coming up, will actually aspect Pluto and make a quincunx aspect to Haumea. So there will be some news about what we're birthing and this power struggle rebirth process that we are going through. Okay. Okay, on to March the 6th. The March the 6th will have the first quarter moon. I didn't actually highlight this on here. Let me do that because I'm going to be using this PDF for other things. So this will be at 16 Gemini and 16 Pisces. So the moon will go over Jupiter, and when it gets to 16 Gemini, it will square off to the sun. This is more of that shifting consciousness, belief system, kind of raising consciousness, changing our perceptions kind of thing. But this is the first quarter moon as we're heading towards a big solar blood red moon eclipse. Okay, so this is big, and everything that's revealed under this is likely to change our perceptions in unbelievable ways around this time, that is. So I'm actually going to get the moon and sun square exactly so you can see it, and I'm just got to adjust again. So here's the sun at 16 Pisces, here's the moon at 16 Gemini, conjunct Jupiter pretty much still, right? And this is radical shifts. This is radical shifts in perception as the moon gains light and we have a crisis in action. What action are we going to take towards what's being revealed to us and to our shifting perceptions and how we see people and what's coming out? Okay, on to March the 7th. I'll just leave it at that time, that's fine. Friday, March the 7th, Venus Day again. The moon finishes up in Gemini and moves into Cancer, also moves maximum out of bounds. So things are getting more beyond the norm. Or breaking all the norms. I mean, how many headlines now have I heard that said that the current administration is breaking all the norms? You know, this is all this out of bounds energy. Remembering that Mars is also out of bounds till April, so still out of bounds. But the moon will move into the sign of Cancer, its own home at 11:21 a.m. And then later that evening, the sun will come up and trine Vesta. Vesta is the state. Vesta is also the inner flame of commitment and devotion. And look at this. I'm going to actually draw some of my lines. This is a watery grand trine. And this is Daedalus near Mars. Daedalus was the one that, Daedalus was Icarus' father. Daedalus was the one who made the wings and from bird feathers and wax, and then had to watch his son fly too close to the sun and then fall into the ocean to his death. Well, look where Icarus is as this watery grand trine happens, and watery is erosion and washing away. Well, Icarus has literally fallen into the oceans of Pisces on March the 7th. So I kind of think that, you know, some people may just take too many risks and it may literally be the fall. Okay, but for you, you know, this is very emotional. This, if you can, you imagine as well, Daedalus kind of watching all this happen. But this is, you know, could also be the fall of some more institutions, state institutions, or even like, you know, all globally. But this could also be the fall of some men, Mars. Let's hope. Okay, So on to March the 8th, and only some before anybody shoots me. There's so many wonderful men around because I know some. March the 8th, this is finishing up the week, so I will probably just take you slightly into the next day. So the sun finishes up that kind of watery grand trine with the exact trine to Mars at 12:12 a.m. on March the 8th. And remember, water erodes and water takes us into this flow state and this drowning, falling, floating state as well. But then this is probably how we'll finish the week. Let me just check there's nothing else. No, I'm going to talk about one more thing after this. But just before this time that I had it set at, Hecate at 13 degrees of Scorpio, 36 minutes, so that's a 3 and a 6, all very feminine numbers, will station retrograde, and is going to be retrograde for quite some time. Oh, Louise. So Hecate will be retrograde till June the 18th at 0 Scorpio and conjunct Haumea. So she is going down into these deep waters of Scorpio and helping us to explore that underworld and come up empowered, because the underworld really is a place of empowerment. Okay. All right, so this is enormous. So 13 from ridingthebeast.com. Remember there was 13 Pluto Haumea squares, all those things. I'm actually just going to go back. So to when she turns retrograde. So in some cultures, 13 is a holy number. In Judaism and Hinduism, Judaism says that 13 is the number of attributes of God's mercy, the age at which a Jewish boy becomes a bar mitzvah and takes on religious and social obligations. It's the number of principles of Jewish faith which are codified in the prayer Yigdal. And it's the number of places of prostration, gates, charity boxes, and tables in the ancient Jerusalem temple. In the Jewish numerology system, the words ahava, love, and echad, pardon me if I'm not saying these right, one, both equal 13. Okay, so this is the 13 is saying we are one, and that makes sense to me because there are like 13 signs and in the zodiac, and we are in the middle making one. All right. In Hinduism, the 13th day of the lunar fortnight is called Triyodashi, which is considered auspicious and is said to bring lifelong peace and good fortune. But in the Bible, of course, I'm sorry, the number 13 is often associated with rebellion, lawlessness, and apostasy because of women. But in the New Testament, 13 is seen as a symbol of the incarnation of God the Son, S-O-N or S-U-N. Take it as you will. So I'm going to look at the symbols for this station because I don't always look at these things, but this one keeps jumping out at me and screaming at me. So we are going to look at it. Okay, so the Sabian symbol for Scorpio 14, where, because we always go up one, is telephone linesman at work installing new connections. This implies the nervous system, the internet, linking people from all over, reaching out to people, acupuncture, because that connects the nervous system, networking. But that's the modern kind of a take on it by Linda Hill of SabianSymbols.com. Let's go back to Mark Jones' original, Mark Edmonds Jones' original interpretation. This is a symbol of the interconnection which links all phases of existence with all others, and of man's special genius for expanding the relationship between the most widely separated and distinctive aspects of experience. Implicit in the symbolism is a responsibility on the part of all higher life or for all lower, and a faithfulness of all lesser things to the requirements of the greater. Here is emphasis on self-specialization as the root mode of all individual beings, and the key word is attachment. And when positive, the degree is an effective penetration of human competence into each pertinent complex of everyday living. When negative, it's unnecessary concern over the affairs of others. In other words, not looking after yourself first. Now, John Sandbacher's symbols for the Hecate retrograde station. The Omega symbol is transforming responsible. A white marble foot grows pink as it turns into flesh. And he said this is about diffusing negative energy and divine blessings. Pisces, by the way, is associated with feet, and we have all that Pisces energy as well. So, but anyway, he says understanding is only cold and impersonal when it's fueled by fear. When it is combined with the heat of love, it comes alive and is released with it from its limits and is renewed. This degree is about waking up and waking others up, especially waking them to what they already know but have forgotten, and waking them to their connection with the whole universe. And the Chandra symbol is women dressed in black. They are wailing and mourning. The fact that there is more than one woman signifies the giving and receiving of support in the process of mourning. If this process is deeply and fully engaged in, it will lead to the rebirth signified by the Omega symbol. What's of critical importance to realize is that if the act of mourning is not deep and full enough, it might just become a habit, a place where one becomes stuck. Completely submerging oneself in the act of mourning, though, as signified by the fact that the women are clothed in black, is what will cause one to be able to release it and move on to renewal, as signified by the rope going up into the sky of the fulfillment degree. I won't kind of talk all about that. But we can see here that this is very much about this energy of renewal that I've been talking about with the other things as well. But first, we have these shifting sands of perception changing and this test of faith. Perhaps it's a renewal of faith as well, right? Maybe. So I'm going to leave you in a minute, but don't forget to subscribe and, leave me comments. Love your comments. What a time we're in, but now we are really in it because I'm recording this just before Venus goes retrograde. Then we've got Mercury going retrograde, then we've got the eclipses, and we are in the cocoon or the chrysalis right now. Dissolution and change, but we are going to re-emerge. We're going to go within now and really transform and change. Oh, by the way, that's Hecate. By She Who Is Art on Etsy. She's also on Facebook, She Who Is. Okay, I'm pulling a card. Oh, I like this. This is very Scorpio, right? So look at this card. This is from the Red Thread Tarot. Strength. Look at those red threads, that ball of red thread. And she's got threads coming out from her waist. She's got pomegranates in her hair. We're heading towards the full moon and she's in front of the full moon. And this is that Kundalini energy coming up from her root. Let me read you the interpretation of this card for this particular deck, because this deck is quite amazing. And the person that creates them, her name's Linda Hill actually as well, is very connected to the myths. So this is Ariadne, Spider Woman, So this is 11, which is a gateway number, and so is I am inner strength. At the ends of the universe is a blood red cord that ties life to death, man to woman, will to destiny. Let the knot of that red sash, which cradles the hoops of the goddess, bind in me the ends of life and dream. I am the knot where the two worlds meet. And that was by Norman D. Ellis. So this is the life force, and this says to wear a red thread to remind you of who you are. I've got mine on. It's time to remember that we are connected by this thread. All right. Much love. See you tomorrow. Kathy and I are meeting. We're actually looking at some really interesting charts. We're looking at the charts of the new Chancellor of Germany. He's not been installed yet, but he's been elected. Bernie Sanders, my favorite, the chart of Romania, and we're looking at the current apparent president's chart as well, with respect to a certain story that's out there in the news. So look forward to that. Mwah. And remember Icarus, flying too close to the sun. Bye.